How y'all doing? I'm the Watchman, and this right here is my testimony, I guess you could call it. A little bit of my life story, just bits and pieces of what makes me me. I've never really opened up my life to, pick and choose, and never really opened up my life to anyone, but I was inspired to do this, and God tells us to tell our testimony. We should tell people why, tell our story, what brought us to God, how did He change us, and things of that nature. And I was inspired to do this by a good friend of mine named Michael McKeegan. Mike, told his testimony, and it really touched me, and and that's when I realized I didn't have mine, and I still was kind of leery, but my fiance Leah, hi baby, she she taught me, pushed me to go through with it, especially as a teacher. I'm always teaching, but uh, just it's just something that's new to me about opening up my life, and I thought it'd be a great thing, especially in the fact of moving on and writing new chapters and keep writing chapters with the Lord, and I see nothing wrong with telling people how great God is and what makes Joshua Wiley Joshua Wiley, the Watchman, or like my son likes to call me, the Watchman, you know. But I'll go on and start off, my mom had me, and that's why I'm outside. I'll tell you a little bit of reason why that, later. But my mom had me. She was 17 when she had me, you know, and young girl, and I pretty much stayed with my grandmother. My grandmother had 7 other kids, and it was almost like a let's just say there was a whole bunch of partying things going on. You know what I mean? I remember early age. I had one of them zip up pajama suits that came up from your toe all the way up to your body. I remember they were throwing a house party, and I remember wandering through the house, all the people, and I remember one of my uncles snatching me up, and I had to be like 3, 4 years old, and that was my first time ever getting drunk. I remember him giving me beer, taking me out to the back, sitting with him and his fellas till one of my aunties caught him and was, "Give me Joshua," and took me back in the house. So, with my mom having me at 17, I lived with my grandmother. She lived with my grandmother for I guess during a little part of the time, but for the most part, I stayed with my grandma. My mom was a soldier, kind of, you could say. She walked to school. She walked to work, walked to school, all in the same days. And these things were far apart, you know. They wasn't close together at all. They wasn't close together at all. So she was gone most of the time. I rarely ever seen her, point blank, to be honest with you. I rarely ever seen her. But anyway, I'll tell you, I just gonna get to it. I tell you, everything in my life happened for a reason. I guess that's why I don't like telling too much of it, because it all happened for a reason. It was a blessed reason. But when I first realized that I was really alone, like I was alone in this world as a child, I started school when I was like 4 years old because my birthday is New Year's, you know, and and I could always sing, and my mom could sing, the whole time I was in her womb, she was working on a gospel album. The album is still being printed today, and I'll probably pull out one and show you. I got a copy of it in my car, well, the case anyway. But I was in her womb the whole time. She was in the studio from day to day. She hid my birth. She hid the birth from everybody. I believe it was because God knew that, they probably would have tried to make her get an abortion. But anyway, they didn't find out that she was pregnant with me until 3 weeks before I was born. I didn't find that out till I was older. But anyway, when I first really realized I was alone, you know what I mean? in this world. My music teacher was my mom's music teacher, you know. So she knew I could sing, you know. She knew I could sing, and I was heading a musical. I was in first grade, and I had like three big solos in this musical with all the big kids, you know, and doing all these big solos and whatnot. And here I am at the musical, and it's over, and I'm standing there, and I see everybody with their parents, you know. And here I'm only 5, 6 years old, and I see everybody with their parents, you know, and standing there, and I realized, I was by myself. I didn't have nobody, and I guess I started bawling. I'm sitting there crying, and here this was, I was the main star of this musical, and I guess somebody, I was used to everybody else's parents, coming up, shaking me on my head and all that. You did good, you sounded good. But anyway, somebody must have told my music teacher, Mrs. King, who I love to death, you know, uh, somebody must have told her that I was crying in the hallway of the school. I went to Randolph Elementary School, and it was before they rebuilt it. But I was sitting there bawling, and so she got me and she said, "Josh, I'm gonna take you home. Josh, I'm gonna take you home." I'll never forget asking her on the way home, asking her, "Can I ride? Can I live with you?" I asked her, "Can I live with you?" And she told me no. She was like, "No, Josh, you can't live with me." And I remember getting mad at her, and I remember not talking to her for the rest of the ride because I was mad. I was mad at her. But that's when I realized that night that I was alone. That I didn't have parents like everybody else. But there's millions of kids who grew up in that same boat, so it's nothing to whine or cry about. But anyway, during this time though, during this same time, I remember one night I woke up and I saw a demon standing across the room staring at me. She was draped head to toe with blood. She had blood on her in streaks. You know, her skin was pale white. As I tell you, I'm seeing her, see her clear as day. Her skin was pale white, and it wasn't like I was dreaming. I wasn't dreaming at all. Her skin was pale white, pale white, like this MacBook I'm using. And it looked like, cigarette ash. If you ever seen cigarette ash when it's been burning too long, like if you touch it, it'll just crumble to dust. That's how her skin looked like. If you just touched her, wherever you touched it, it would crumble to dust. And I'll never forget her gown around her feet made a perfect circle. The white gown she had on came down to the floor, but it came out into a perfect circle, So, and she's standing across the room. She's standing on one side, and my grandmother's iron skillet. My grandma had one of them old school iron skillets. Now this is up in the mountains. I'm a little mountain boy. This is in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. But anyway, my grandma had one of them big, thick iron skillet. Like it's like this thick on the sides, And the demon was standing on one side, and the iron skillet was on the other side, floating up and down. And she was staring at me, and I'm looking at her. And when I look back on everything, there was no fear inside of me, But it's just like looking, almost like I'm looking at TV or something. But I'm looking at her, and she floats over to me, if that's what you want to call it. But she leaned over because I'm laying in the bed, and she had fire in her eyes. And when I say fire in her eyes, literally, like when I looked her in her eyes, literally she had flames inside of her eyes. There was flames inside of her eyes. And she looked at me with this hatred, and I could see her veins pulsating through her skin. And she went and tried to pull me out the bed from the bottom. And that's when I woke up. But I woke up that next morning halfway out the bed. Like it's like she tried to pull me out the bed, but someone stopped her, which I'm pretty sure was my guardian angel or whatnot. And to be honest with you, my toe, my toe had a mark from where she grabbed me to this very day. Uh, it was a black scar on my toe. Uh, Pretty much on my big toe. Pretty much took up the whole cover of my big toe where she grabbed me. But anyway, my hair was gray for a long time. People used to say, "Oh, that boy got." I had a lot of gray hair, and they like, "Oh, that stands for wisdom." And I'm like, "Nah, I saw something crazy." But I knew it was something crazy I seen. But even at that young age, I knew it was the devil, and that's what I used to call her as, is just the devil. Until I got older and was reading for myself is when I read, and when God described the great whore in Revelation, I believe 17 or 18, is when I really realized it was the spirit of the great whores who I actually saw, and but my eyes have never been the same since that night. You know, like when other people sit and wonder, is there good and evil on earth? Like since that night as a child, I've always known that there are demons, like literally right here with us. Good and evil. Good demons, bad demons. I mean, ain't no good demons. I mean, good angels, bad demons. That they're literally here with us. You know, Never been no question to me, and because of this, honestly, I studied uh, every religion before I was 12, and it wasn't like an in-depth study. My mom, even though I was born a Seventh-day Adventist, because of what I saw, and I was wondering who was after me. I always wondered who was after me because I would feel her, across the room, watching me, staring at me from time to time, and it made me wonder, who was this after me? So I wanted to know what was truth. I didn't want to. By this time, I'm like 7 years old, and so I wanted to know what was true for myself. If I told you my eyes were different now, and from when I was born to up to now, I pretty much lived with aunts and uncles. I knew who my mom was. Don't get me wrong, but my mom walked to school and walked to work, and I lived with my grandmother. So I was pretty much raised by everybody, as you could say, but really with no parents. But my mom gave me the freedom to study all religions, and she even told me. I remember the talk. This is around when I was like 11, and by this time I hadn't told her nothing about what I saw, and I asked her. I said, if I wanna be a Baptist, you gonna let me? She was like, yeah. If I wanna be a Jehovah's Witness, you gonna? She's like, yeah. So I studied all of them, and I compared all of them to the Bible. That was my source of comparison. And what was funny was, even as a child, I came right back to uh, Seventh-day Adventists. They were the only ones who followed the whole Ten Commandments. And I'm just being honest with you, not trying to convert nobody, just telling my story. But anyway, but anyway, yeah. So my eyes had never been the same after that night. I literally knew I seen something crazy. And I say her because she was in the female form, looked like, not body wise, just long hair, long hair. And but look rotten, like had been rotting for a long time, you know but anyway, my family, used to dibble and dabble in a lot of bad stuff. What I mean, nobody really wanted to watch me, take care of me. So for years, through this whole time period, I've been being getting locked in my grandma's room. Sounds crazy, but yeah, when I wasn't in school, I had to go straight to the room. They would lock me in this room from when I was in school till I woke up the next day. Sometimes forget about me. Sometimes, I'd only have to stay in there for like an hour or two, but most of the time I'd be in there for the whole day, you know. And I'll never forget there was nothing but two mattresses and a dresser in there. And the dresser, I carved on the dresser with my fingernail over the whole dresser. I don't even remember what I wrote, but all I know is when I had nothing else to carve on, and I'm sitting in there, and this is after being in there for like 2 years, and I'm around 7 this time, right after I carved over the whole dresser, after being in there for about 2 years, being locked in this room. I remember looking up at the window, and a little voice said to me, "Let's see if the window open." So I did, and it was. And I'll never forget that feeling of when my feet hit the other side, you know. It was like I was free in a way. Like literally, I'll never forget. I remember there were leaves on the ground. It was in the fall because, as you know, from the mountains, and when the leaves fall in the mountains, it's like a cushion. And I'll never forget landing and that feeling of, and I took off running, and I would spend the whole day just running around Asheville, you know. And my mom, she had an apartment like 2 blocks away on Starnes Avenue, and I would run and get my little bike tied up at her apartment, and I would be gone, just gone some days. And sometimes I'd stay out so late because I knew they would just lock me back up, that I'd go to my mom's apartment, and it was the automatic doors, them apartment buildings where you have to you just can't walk into the apartment building. You have to have a key for the outward door, and then the apartments are inside. But I had a little spot near these bushes that I would lay in. That I would lay in. But that only happened a couple times because people complained about it, and they went and told the family, told my mom. I guess you know how people talk. Your son, the little boy laying outside the apartment building in the bushes. So DHS or whoever, must have told him, got on either my mom, or I don't even know if it went that far to DHS. People that just didn't call DHS back then. I'm pretty sure they just went to my mom and to my grandma and them, because I never forget. I'm coming home from school. I'm like in the 3rd grade. I'm crunk. I'm feeling good. And just to recap, that's why that night after the musical, I wanted to go home with Mrs. King, because I knew right when I got to my grandmother's, I was going straight to that locked room. Picture singing, in front of hundreds of people at your musical, and you leave from there going straight to a locked room. But anyway, I'm crunk, feeling good, going home, because I'm like, sure. The minute I go in the room, I'm hopping out the window. I get to the room, you know what I'm saying, and they standing there, and I'm looking, and I see one of my uncles. They got him nailing down the windows. He's sitting there nailing down the windows, and I'm like, I instantly start bawling, because I know it's like it's like I done got hit with a 10-year sentence. Like, oh nah. So I start bawling, and be it, I'm only 7 years old, 8 years old, so I'm bawling. And I sit up in the windowsill. I'm not even trying to. My mind is cut off to them. They try to. I remember certain of them standing in front of me. Hey, you put it out, and my mind cut off. I'm really not hearing them. But I'm sitting there, and I'll never forget. I look over out the window. The very window that my uncle was nailing, a North Carolina blue jay, the color of the sky blue, a North Carolina blue jay, flies and lands on the windowsill right across from me. He's outside. My uncle is nailing, hitting the window, boom, 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 boom. And he's just sitting there staring at me. And I'm looking at him. I look down, I'm looking at him. He's staring at me so hard and clear right across from me through the window that I stopped crying. I stopped crying, and I'll never forget. I don't even remember them leaving the room, but I know they left the room, and he was still in the windowsill. I kid you not. He was still in the windowsill. I remember jumping down, and tapping the window. Pa, 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 pa. And he just stood there looking at me. And I'm tapping the window again, and he just stood there looking at me. And I'll never forget talking to him. I started talking to him like, hey, because I really knew he was there for me. And I'll never forget, this had been like 10 minutes had passed. He was still there. He didn't move when my uncle was knailing down the window. He didn't move. When they left, he didn't move. When I jumped down, he didn't move. When I was tapping the glass, he didn't move. And so I'm sitting there talking to him. And I'll never forget, I jumped back up on the windowsill. I'm sitting down. And I turned my head for a second. And he was gone. Now, every day, I tell you, every day, they locked me in that room for about another year after that. Another year after that. What's going on? And I wasn't. It was crazy because after he came to that windowsill after that day, it was like I knew I wasn't alone in there. So it wasn't the same. I used to feel bad about being in that room, but then after he came to my window, I used to run to the window or run to the room to look for him, to wait on him. I spent hours. Y'all wouldn't believe I spent hours staring out that window, waiting for that blue jay to come back to the windowsill. Spent hours. Spent hours. It was no longer a bad feeling being in there. I spent hours waiting on him, and even to the color of my clothes. So many people used to think that I was in a gang because I got so much sky blue. Not just regular blue. It got to be baby blue, North Carolina baby blue. But that's the reason, because of that bird. And now that I'm older, I know for a surety that it was Jesus. You know, and this is one of the reasons I love him so much. Now that I'm older, I know for a surety that it was him, especially when I found out that the Israelites used to wear uh, blue embroidered around their gowns to remind them of the law. So when I found that out, that the Israelites used to wear baby blue embroidered on their gowns because it's the color of the sky, to remind them of the law, you know how I felt, and you know what my mind went straight back to. I went straight back to that bird. But anyway, my family stopped locking me out the room. It wasn't by choice. It's nothing to brag about. I fought one of my family members even at a young age. I was 9 years old the last time. I remember the very last day that they ever locked me in that room. I fought one of them. I used to spend hours in there just throwing punches, mad at the world, and I ended up fighting one of them, and that was the last time they ever locked me in that room. I pretty much would even stop just coming home. Period. I just leave straight from school and and be on the streets, walk and go get my bike, do a creep move, untie my bike, untie the lock on my bike, and be gone. But anyway, you know, I had to just tell those key points because something I live with every day. Used to be heavy on me, but I definitely starting to see the blessing of it all. It was definitely a blessing. One of the reasons why I used to wonder why God would allow me to see uh, the great whore, but back then I just thought it was the devil. You know, why would He would allow me to see the devil before seeing Him? And it was because He wanted me of a surety to know that there was good and evil on earth. My eyes have never been the same. I don't look at things like everyone else. I had to notice that my eyes, I used to try to make them be the same like everybody else, but my eyes have never been the same. Even when I read the word, because of the things I've seen, it's never been the same. And there has been many instances with, demons trying to call me. I know I'm in the room by myself, and Hey Joshua, little soft voices, but I wouldn't even look. I'm to my one time it was so clear and her voice was so crisp and clear. And I was actually staying with my mom, and we was in this brick apartment building. I was like 10 years old by this time, not no longer being with my grandmama. I was with my mom full time, you know. Now, and I'll never forget. I watched my mom walk across the street because I wasn't supposed to play on no waterbed, so I'm jumping on a waterbed. Voice clear as day, Joshua. I froze. I froze. I remember I even got whooped because I wasn't supposed to be on the waterbed, but I didn't move until she got back. I stayed in the middle of the waterbed, got caught and everything because I ain't move, I ain't get up, or nothing. I ain't even look to see who it was that called me. But anyway, but I will tell her these 2 times that God saved my life because different instances after that, the devil tried to take my life. Now that I'm old, I'm for the surety it was the devil, but God, of course, saved me each time. Like one time, I gotta tell, one time I'm on my bike. Like I said, I was always grabbing my bike and be gone all over Asheville. But I'm on my bike and we talking about the mountains, the real mountains, and there's a hill like this, and I'm coming this way, and I'm on this hill, Starnes Avenue, and I'm on a hill, and I'm coming this way, and the car is coming down this way, and I'm sitting there at the four-way, but the lady, I could have swore, the lady in the car said, "Come on." So I go out into the traffic, and it was like the dude sped up, but she might have been swatting at something in the car or just, bro. But I might have thought she said, "Come on." But anyway, I go out and they hit me. Boom, on this hill. Next thing I know, I'm flying. I never forget when they hit me. I remember looking at the sky and everything just turning. And I remember seeing my bike in the air with me. While I'm in the air, that's how hard they hit me. And I fell like 25 to 30 feet down the road, you know. And it was crazy because I didn't have no scratch on me. The only thing that was hurting was my wrist. I woke up, my head was on the curb like it was a pillow, and my bike was on top of me. And I remember I got up, grabbed my bike, and I made my way home. And I remember the people out the car was, "You all right? You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, leave me alone." Because I'm like, I don't want nobody to see me. I don't want moms to see me. I get in trouble, I was always the bad guy getting, especially they already had me depicted as a bad child. I'm escaping out of windows and all that stuff. So people used to just automatically, "Oh, he's a bad kid," whoop-de-whoop. So I'm like, "Nah, I'm alright, leave me alone," you know what I'm saying, before I get in trouble, you know what I mean? So I ain't even really tell nobody. But anyway, there was another time I'm on a field trip and we're going off these waterfalls and we're going tubing. We're going tubing in the mountain, and I guess the teacher, Mr. C, he didn't look over the river and he didn't know that there was a little waterfall on the river. Now, it was a blessing that the waterfall was only like 6 feet, 6 feet high. It wasn't a big fall at all. But when you on the river itself, you don't know, when you see the dropping off, when you see the heads just dropping, you don't know if that's a 20-foot fall or a 4-foot fall. You know what I mean? So me and my boy in the back, me, Joey Ammon, Ashley Tucker, we all in the back. We sitting there in the back trying to hold on. We hearing screams. Ah! We're like, "Oh, side. So next thing you know, we go over this fall. But anyway, I land right up under where the water's coming down. So I'm trying to swim up, and I've always been a good swimmer. I'm trying to swim up, but the water, I guess, on the top is keeping me from reaching the top. And I never forget, I remember when my reserve tank kicked in. You can feel when your reserve tank of air kick in. And I had been underwater for like 40 seconds. I knew it was like 41, 50 seconds when my reserve tank kicked in. And that's just from growing up in the hood. They always had the junior lifeguard classes at the Y in the community center. But anyway, I never forget a small voice said in my head, said to me, whispered in my ear, and this is while I'm underwater, said, "Lift up your foot, Joshua. Step up." I never forget, clear as day, said, "Step up." And I'm underwater and I step up and it felt like the back of a turtle, but of course it was just a rock that was underwater. I stepped up, I was only this far up underwater, literally. I had been fighting to get to the top, and I was only this far up underwater the whole time. Because the water from the fall, when I fell directly under the water from the fall. I was only under this much of water. When I popped up, people in the class were looking. I guess I was the last one. They were wondering where I was at, thinking I was drowning. Of course, I was drowning. But yeah, that was nothing but the Lord. Voice clear as day. Voice clear as day. Lift up, Joshua. God is great, yo. God is great, and I'm sharing these things with you so you get a feeling, understanding of me, of what makes me me, and why I can care less what other people think about me loving my father, and why I call him my father. Oh, I want to tell you, the day that the Blue Jay came to my window when they nailed down the windows to keep me in, was the day I said in my heart, I was like, God adopted me that day. For real, as a little boy, that was the day that God adopted me. And I used to say that to myself all the time growing up as a child that, I didn't have a real dad. And, I believe my family didn't care about me. So I was like, God adopted me that day. So you can understand when I became a teenager and I read and I was old in lockup. And I remember in lockup when I read in Romans 9 about the adoption. Romans chapter 9, where God talks about the adoption. Oh, I went crazy. I went crazy in my cell. I was like, what? I was crying, I was laughing, I was excited, talking to God at the same time. I went crazy. I literally went crazy. But anyway, you know, I'm going to shorten it up. So many things, that I went through. I won't tell it. I won't tell it all. Let's just say that the devil had his ways of trying to keep me away from the church and the Seventh Adventist faith. He really wanted me through people, even as a child and even as a young teenager. I knew that uh, even though you got some wicked people, I guess because of what I seen as a child, knowing that this demon, that the devil, whoever it was after me. Because back then I didn't know it was the great whore. I just thought it was the devil. So then, just knowing that the devil, was after me for some strange reason, you know, I knew that just because there were wicked people in the church didn't make the faith or the religion itself false, you know. So no matter how many evil people used to come at me in the church, not knowing how I came up, my background, and none of that, I never strayed from the faith or stopped saying, well, I'm not gonna be a Seventh Adventist no more. F Seventh Adventist and all that. Nah, I didn't go that route because I knew, just because there's wicked people in the faith, that doesn't make the faith itself false. Like I was unjustly kicked out of church school, y'all. My mom, we lived in the projects, and my mom said the Lord told her one day, send these kids to this private school, and she couldn't afford it at all. So she started, because we lived in the projects already, barely any furniture, and she worked at the church school at a nursing home. They had a nursing home there. She actually worked there to help pay for our tuition and everything too. So I didn't have no money for lunches, and so and they lunches was expensive. It wasn't like public school like I was used to. Got free lunch, you know, or even if you had to pay, it was only like 75 cents to $1. But there, I'll never forget, it was like 3.25, and of course I couldn't afford that at all. So my brother and sister could have their lunches, I'd go without. And some of my friends who worked in the cafeteria used to hook me up with free meals, and somebody told on me and got wind of it. Somebody went to the teachers and told, yes, at a church school. And but like I said, it's just the people, not the faith. And they went and told, and so I never forget the principals, the teachers. They was like, put me in a little conference room, and it was like, tell us who been giving you these free meals, and I'm like, no, I'm not telling. So they suspended me. They suspended me for 2 weeks, and eventually ended up kicking me out. Not over that, over another reason. They lied. We had jobs on campus because it was a private school, and we had jobs on campus to help pay for our tuition. And I lucked out, me and my boy Patrick. We lucked out. I worked in the girls' dorm. We were the maintenance. We used to fix these little baseball heaters. And one day, you know, coming back off suspension, it was like the next day. We used to never clock in, but one day we didn't clock in because the clock in you had to go way down the hill to clock in. You know, it was like literally like a mile away to clock in the maintenance shed. So we'll just go to work and we'll clock in later on at night. You know, after we ate dinner or something, or the next day we'll clock in, write the time down. But anyway, they already knew it because they used that as an excuse to say I broke into the girls' dorm and because the dudes ain't supposed to be in there, but we worked in there, so we could be in there. So they said I broke into the girls' dorm, so they expelled me, not knowing that my mom was good friends with the president of the South Atlantic Conference. Uh, I believe his name Elder PA, and I believe that's what his name was. But anyway, all I know is that the conference was called, and the principal of the private school, Mount Pisgah Academy, his name was Mr. Blackman, ended up getting fired. Ended up getting they fired him for expelling me, and I like Coach Nielsen took his spot, and I'll always love Coach Nielsen, you know, and Coach Nielsen offered me a 4-year scholarship to come back, paid for, wouldn't have to pay, but after that experience, and of course everything I had grown up with in my life, so much hatred and anger for the world anyway. I told him nah. I said nah, and I never forget telling him and Mr. Cook, who was my favorite teacher there. He was the music teacher. I'll never forget telling him. I said I'd rather go to public school where where I can get a free meal. And I said it's a shame that I couldn't even get a free meal at a church school. But that's just the day and the time. But of course, my eyes, like I told you, my eyes had never been the same. Even to look at it like that about not being able to even get a free meal at a church school. But I always got mad love for Mount Pisgah because they have me down as one of their alumni to this day. And I didn't graduate, but they got me down as alumni, and I love them for it. Like I met a lot of great friends there, a lot of great friends. And there was a blessing. It was definitely a blessing me going out there. But anyway, I mean, I was just after that, it was like a whole downhill spiral. I went to my dad lived in Camden, New Jersey. I was always on and off from New Jersey anyway, growing up. But I went up to Camden, and if any of y'all ever heard of Camden, Camden was ranked the most dangerous city to live in America 2 years in a row, a couple years back. But anyway, I'm up there with my dad for the summer. I get into some trouble. I had a shotgun just to put stuff short. I get sentenced to 3 years in prison. Me, my older brother, my cousin. I'm the one with the shotgun, sawed off. We robbed a store, being stupid. Just poor kids wanting some clothes and stuff. But anyway, we end up robbing the store. I'm the one with the shotgun, so I got sentenced to 3 years at Jamesburg. I'm 15 at this time. I just got kicked out of Pisgah. Well, that incident with Pisgah happened like the year before, and so I ended up doing like altogether just a year and a half. A program, a boys' home picked me up. Boys' home picked me up, so it was a good thing I didn't have to do that time in Jamesburg. Jamesburg is rough. It was rougher than a lot of these little male prisons and things that they have in jails. I've been locked up several times as an adult, and Jamesburg was way rougher than a lot of the jails, the adult jails. But anyway, you know, but of course, being locked up back then was never no worry for me because I didn't care really because I was used to getting locked up as a child. I mean, and I'm being honest. A lot of my friends from New Jersey to Tennessee who was locked up, it would drive them crazy. And I've seen men hang themselves. And the blessing of me being locked in that room for so many years was, I guess, how great God is. God knew that I was going to go through all this in my life, so he prepared me for it beforehand, because when I went to that cage as a juvenile and as an adult, when I went to jail and to prison, it was nothing to me. I was already used to it from being locked up as a child. I knew how to deal with it. I knew how to throw my mind other places. But anyway, so after I got out, you know, I was after I got out, ended up moving. My mom moved to Clarksville, Tennessee. You know, I kept getting locked up, and one of the times I was locked up, uh, every time I get locked up, and I'm seeing the difference because I'm free. You know, in lockup, you know, I'm free from dope, drugs, cigarettes, alcohol. You know, and uh, and I'm reading my Bible and holding, you know, doing Bible studies with my friends. And it was crazy because one time, January 22nd, 1999, you know, it was the morning after a tornado. Tornado hit the jail down in Clarksville. Hit the jail 3 times. It tore every building around us down, but left the jail standing. That's a whole nother topic right there to go into. That night was very crazy, but very next night, God interrupted one of my dreams, and He picked me up in the dream and dropped me off in the field, and I saw the sky open. And in the dream, I knew it was God, and I saw the sky open, and His hand, all the way up to His elbow, came out the cloud, and He pointed at me, and He called me to Him. He said, "Come to me, Joshua." That's all He said was, "Come to me, Joshua." And I'll never forget, I woke up, I was laughing and crying, because He who created the heavens had just called me by name. This little boy who thought, when I used to believe in my heart that He adopted me as a child, from that day at the window, it really, let's just say I've never been the same. But I rarely tell people that, because I know people think, oh, he better than us, or I've told a couple people, even ex-girlfriends back in the day, or a couple friends, and they literally thought I was crazy, stopped being my friend. God spoke to you, God's arm came out the sky to you, and why would God show you His arm or His hand in His arm? And it was crazy, because the next day, He showed me a verse. After He called me to Him, the next day in my cell, I opened up my Bible and came straight to this verse. And I've never forgot it. It was Numbers 12. Numbers chapter 12. Let me just read part of the verse to y'all. Numbers chapter 12. Verse 5. Numbers 12 verse 5 says, "And the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And He said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream." Y'all talking about crazy? That blew me away. I was like, what? Oh, Father. I'm talking about, I went ballistic. Like, I love you. That's my best friend. But anyway, you know, and I still didn't act right after that. You know, devil was on me hard. You know, wilding out, had the music in my door, in my face. But anyway, I'm in lockup. You know, there was instances like I remember one time I got kicked out of a dream. You know, I had a dream woman riding on the beast, the gray horse. She was riding on the beast, and in the dream, like John said, he marveled at the beast, and I marveled. I reached my hand up to pet the beast, and she said she said something like that. It charged me full throttle and hit me. Boom! I'll never forget, in the dream she hit me. But I wake up in real life, I'm flying across the air, and I hit the other side of my wall in my cell. I hit the other side of the wall of my cell, slide down, I sit there, I look, I'm like, oh. And this was the old school cell doors. This was in Clarksville's old jail, where it had like a fence, but it was a metal fence for the doors, so people could actually see inside your cell. So I'm sitting there like I'm making sure my boy Mule's right across from me. Mule kind of loud, he'll be like, if he'd have seen me, he'd have like, Joe, what are you doing over there? You wrestling with yourself? He'd have said something crazy. And so I looked to see if Mule was looking, and I'm like, oh man, what just happened? But I was used to crazy stuff happening to me like that. And I'm just telling y'all just tips, bits and pieces of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. Under the water there's a mountain, but not enough time for all that. But anyway, that's just like little stuff that used to happen. And it was crazy because that stuff became reassurances in this cold world, when you tend to think that, you've strayed too far from God, or, that God can't reach you, when the devil start hounding you. It's crazy, but God will bring those situations back in my mind and say, Joshua, I don't make bad choices. I'm with you still. I'm with you. So, I thank him for every little thing that he's done, you know. Matter of fact, like just recently, recently I was going through some things, feeling a little down. And this verse came to me right in church. And remember I said January 22nd, 1999 is when I saw, is when he dropped me off in the field and his arm came out the sky and he pointed to me and called me by name, right? Well, just the other day I'm sitting in church and the pastor, he reads Isaiah 53 verse 1, and it reads, who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Now, chapter 53 is talking about Jesus, the whole chapter. But that first verse where he says, whom has seen, that's crazy, I just read, but I don't want to misquote. But the first verse where it says, to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? I was just wrestling with some things, and when he read that, it was like God telling me, reinstating to me like, Joshua, you're on the right path. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm with you. I'm with you. But I'm not even gonna get into this. But even one night, I dreamt, before I even knew that this story was in the Bible, but I dreamt Zechariah chapter 3, the whole chapter. It's about a Joshua. I'll let you read it. It's about a Joshua that lived in the last days. It's not about the Joshua in Moses' time, but just read Zechariah chapter 3. But I dreamt that whole chapter one time before I even knew that story existed in the Bible. I dreamt that whole chapter. Just things like that is what makes me me. And I was strained, partying. Me and my friends, Darrell, Claudia, Scurry, Little John, a whole bunch, Antonio Logan, Dion, KD, a whole bunch of my friends, man. My little brother Kevin, we actually had a club in our house. I was wilding out for years and years and years after that, in and out of jail, fighting the police. All my peoples out in Canton, I love y'all, and and if I don't mention anyone's name, but I was just out doing some crazy stuff for years after that. Drinking myself away, smoking marijuana, smoking myself away, smoking cigarettes, stressed out, always thinking about the past, and I'll never forget, you know, uh, just to make a long story short, me and my kid's mom broke up, you know, and she had called me one day. She lived in Ohio, and I'm down here, and she had called me one day saying that she couldn't take it no more, that I needed to be with the kids. And so I came and got the kids, and I was with them. And what was so crazy was, let's just say, uh, 3 days after Christmas, 3 days after Christmas, the sheriffs them came in, kicked in the door, you know, took the kids, took the kids from me, you know, over a lie, you know. And I'm not saying it was her. It was probably, you know, let's just say a family member or somebody said I kidnapped the kids, and you knew that me, her, God, and the devil know that's not true at all. I had the kids for 5 months, but I kidnapped them though. Mm. Anyway, anyway, they came in, took them from me 3 days after Christmas, and I lost it. I'm talking about after everything else in my life, and then that. I blanked out. I was wilding out on the world, and started filming videos. Matter of fact, I wasn't gonna do this, but some of my old music videos that I filmed during this time is on YouTube, and that's where my YouTube channel page name comes from, Top Soldiers. Me and my brothers had a rap group called Top Soldiers. My brother Dominique is the one who came up with the name. Well, he didn't come up with the name. The name was pretty much given to him in prison, you know, and Top Soldiers, and that's where the actual account comes from, because I was the one filming and editing our videos, and I ain't know too much about technology, so I just knew that I had to make a YouTube account to upload the videos. I ain't never do nothing with it, and then when I started uh, studying the word and wanting to make comments on other people's stuff, I'm like, oh, that's right, I do got a YouTube account. So when I started making videos myself, I just used the same account. So it wasn't like I picked the name Top Soldiers 1 to be like, oh, I'm a top soldier of the Lord. Nah, I'm a chief of all sinners, like Paul said. I don't deserve his love. I don't deserve God at all. Like I've just told y'all, just tips of the iceberg. To be honest with you, I was a beast out here. The same way I love the Lord and go wholeheartedly, I was the total opposite. All that hatred and anger, that little boy who grew up with nobody at one point was a mean and angry little boy. But anyway, if you want to see some of my videos on YouTube, you know, yeah, and I got my dreads. You see me with dreads. Just click in Top Soldiers as my channel page is spelled Top Soldiers, and like one of the videos is on top. Go Top Soldiers on top. And my name used to be Raw, because when you spell it backwards, it spells war. But that's some of the videos that we used to film, and we actually had a little bit of deals coming our way, little underground deals here and there, you know, things of that nature, exposure, being in the newspaper. But the whole time, you know, this is after my kids got took from me. The whole time I was angry, miserable, mad at the world, you know, hating life, you know, and I never forget a small voice. You know, I love my boy Matthew Huey. During this time, he put me in a book that's national, sold nationwide, called 12 Angry Men. You know, I do a commercial for it on my channel page, but over a whole bunch of other things that happened during this time, wasn't always a good guy. But let's just say a little voice whispered to me one day while I was in the studio, said, Josh, you know you're gonna lose your soul. I always knew I was meant to teach. I wasn't meant to do the music, and music came so easy to me that I knew it was of the devil. You know, I was crowned Clarksville's freestyle champion. You know, I battled 12 MCs one Christmas night, you know, at the club, and ripped them all. I've opened for Outkast, Killer Mike, you know, some underground, a lot of underground acts, you know, that we've opened for. Twisted, chilled and kicked it with Twisted. You know, they kick it with ICP. But anyway, all of that being out there in the world, wilding out. But God says, you know you're going to lose your soul. Give me a try. And that's real talk. 2 years ago, he whispered in my ear, give me a try. And I did. And there's other stuff I was going to tell y'all about, like the time a sparrow, I was sitting there crying. in my brother's garage, my brother Kevin. It's the snow outside. I'm drunk, pretty much homeless, wilding out. And a sparrow came up to me and kicked it with me just like the Blue Jay did for about 10 minutes. Sobered me up, and it was crazy. My life, I thought my life was through and I was hurting. But when that little sparrow flew to me, came to me, and sat there and waited with me for about 10 minutes, literally, no lie. My brother's name is Kevin Foster. Look him up on Facebook and ask him. He's a friend on my Facebook. Ask him. I even called him while the sparrow was there because he was inside the house and I'm in the garage. And at first he ignored my call because he was like, I know he said in his head, oh, Josh, what you doing calling me and you outside? You in the garage? Don't be calling me. So I called him back again, like, you know, like, come in. I didn't want to yell and the sparrow fly away, but he came to the door and the sparrow just looked at him like, what's up? And it was crazy. And then flew over to him. Well, hopped over to him, looked back at both of us, and then left. Like, all he was waiting on was him to see him and then leave. But anyway, I really gave Jesus my whole heart 2 years ago when that voice whispered to me. And let me tell y'all, he whispered to me, he said, I will restore all things unto you. I got my kids back, as y'all can see if y'all know my videos. I got my kids back. I got a great job. And I have a beautiful fiance who loves me for me. God is so great and he's so wonderful. And not only that, is the light that he's showing me with the word as I got older. And I told you my eyes have never been the same. So many things that the devil hides and ways are not hidden to me, because remember who I saw as a child when I saw the great whore out of eye. You know, when in small little ways that people think that the devil don't do or don't exist, I see clearly that he does. And it's, you know, and that's why my biggest thing is, like I always say, the truth loves investigation. And if I ever speak not according to this book, then you can call me a liar and a false teacher. But I'm going to tell you, even as a Seventh-day Adventist, many people will say, oh, I hear all the time, oh, you believe in Ellen White, you follow Ellen White. No, she didn't even start Seventh-day Adventist. Joseph Smith did. Joseph Smith. What am I talking about? Joseph Bates. See how I get all emotional, start naming off names wrong. But Joseph Bates, Ellen was one of the co-founders. She was one of the co-founders. But Joseph Bates had a large part of it, the most part of it. But anyway, I believe in this and only this. And I like to take everything from here. But I'm telling you, his word is true and just. And a lot of my friends will tell you, you know, this was big for me. I appreciate y'all sharing this hour with me. But just to let you know a little bit of where I come from, or why I feel like, why I call myself a watchman. You know, one day God told me, you know, to read Ezekiel. And it's crazy, when I came to chapter 33 and read how we're all called to be watchmen. We're all called to send out a warning and to warn others when we see danger approaching. You know, God is great, and I'm here as living proof. I do not deserve to be here. I'm talking about, I cut so many things out. I don't deserve God's love. I've seen people die, people get set on fire, people get whooped, mollywopped. I've done a lot of horrible things in my life, things that I won't say, things that I'm not proud of. When people say, I don't regret nothing I've done in my life, I can't say that. I regret a lot of things, and a lot of things I would do different. I've hurt a lot of people. Me personally, I've hurt a lot of people with my words and with my actions. And I've steered a lot of people away from God. And because He forgave me, I owe Him everything. And now I'm going to try to lead as many as I can to Him. I owe Him all of me. All of me. I don't owe Him none of my little self. It's like my life is gone now. I don't have no ambitions for what Josh want to do. Nah, it's about what he wants me to do. And he wanted me to share this with y'all. This was big to me. I've never really shared any of it because people already think I'm crazy and weird, for giving up my music deal and things of that nature. Or just think I'm weird because, it's crazy, but it's sad when loving the Lord and following by His law and morals and statutes nowadays, you're considered an oddball. I actually had a female like 7 months ago call me odd because I wouldn't fornicate with her, even though she had a boyfriend. And she was cute, but she said she was like, "You serious?" Because she wasn't used to somebody telling her no. And I said, "Yeah." She was like, "You're weird," and you'd be surprised how many times I get called weird, but who cares? I was adopted as a child. I can care less what the world say or think about me. And God is so great to where I love Him so much to where, like my fiance, I've dreamt for a woman like her my whole life. You know, she loves the Lord. She's beautiful. She's strong. She actually talked me into doing this. Seeing my boy Michael McKeegan give his testimony and me and her talking me into it and me praying and the Lord saying yes. Give it. Let people know about you. Don't be ashamed. Why be ashamed of where God has brought me from and some of the things I'm going through. That's just some of the things, but God is so wonderful and so great that I don't care. And that's why I teach. That's why I love Him. That's why I do what I do. And that's just a bit of my story. Thank y'all for listening. It's been the Watchman. Till next time, y'all take care.